Hello, my friends, and welcome to a space where pleasure is treasured, relaxation is not what you think it is, and life firing on all cylinders is what we're about. If you are somebody who wakes up every day asking for way more, consider this your happy place. Welcome to the Creation of Living podcast. I'm your host, Heather Nichols. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Creation of Living podcast. We are going to be diving in this week to going beyond how. This is a big one. Last week, this is kind of a continuation of last week's episode. Last week, I took a dive into this amazing tool in Access Consciousness, light and heavy. And really looking at, making decisions and making choices from the energy of it, like perceiving the energy of what you would like to create in your life and living. And then, seeing if the choices that you have available to you and the possibilities that you're aware of match, what matches that and what has a sense of expanding those futures and what has a sense of diminishing and contracting those futures. And one of the things that we have to get present with when you're creating energetically, which is really the most powerful way to create, is by following energy, looking at the energy, interacting with the energies of the different creations, and even with the people that you're creating with, and all kinds of different variables. Just as a side note, creating from the energy is, and with an awareness of the energy, is truly one of the most pragmatic ways to create, because everything is energy. Everything is energy. We aren't educated about that. We don't have that as a predominant conversation in our world. Unfortunately, may that change. I get that it is changing. But when it comes down to it, there's energy underneath everything, behind everything, and there's like energies of the future that different things create, different choices create. And you can be standing here right now and you could have one choice that will take you a very different direction than another one. And it's like, how do you know what to choose? Well, if you listen to last week's episode, we talked a lot about getting clear on what you'd like to create, and then looking at the energy of that and seeing from an energetic perspective what matches that, what is going to expand that. A big part of that is trusting yourself and trusting your awareness. And I will say that, to me, one of the ways that we really cultivate that is just by going for it, by trying it on, by playing with the tool of creation from energy, and noticing what you are aware of. And it's kind of like going to the gym. You build new muscle by going and starting somewhere. And as you do, those muscles develop. You have a different sense of strength, a different sense of communion with your body. And it's the same thing with the energetics of creation. You've got to start somewhere, and you've got to also just keep going. And because every choice that you make will give you more information, more awareness, more feedback. And that's really all that matters, actually, is the feedback, the awareness, the information that you get from the choices you make. If we don't have to get something right, if we don't have to pursue a particular outcome, there is so much that becomes available, and we start to really have a totally different reality with creation, because nothing is significant. It's like you don't have to make anything happen. You don't have to try. You can just be like, well, let's see what this creates. And knowing that if you're empowered and you empower yourself to choose and to make different choices and new choices, you're going to have all kinds of new awareness, new energies, new information. That's actually one of the things that I look at a lot when I'm really wanting to make some change. Right now, I'm going through some big change in my life, in my business, like in my inner world, and even with my body. And it's all very connected. And just letting go of a lot of stuff that I didn't realize was that I was functioning from, unconscious patterns, energies, behaviors, points of view. I had no idea they were there. But the thing is I've been asking for something greater and something different. And so as, we ask for things to show up, they do, if we allow that to be the case, if we keep going every day and keep showing up to new possibilities, new conversations, new choices. And one of the things I look at a lot when I'm asking for change and just every day in general is what are the different choices that I could be making? We get very kind of ingrained into the same choices, and that's because we know how. We know if I'm going to choose, to have, this particular dish for dinner that I have all the time, I know how to make it, you know? If I'm like, I want to have something really different for dinner tonight that I want to cook, and I have no idea. Like, I want to surprise myself. I want something new, something different. I don't know how to make whatever it is that I'm going to make. We have to learn and just choose and start moving in that direction. And I mean, that's that's one of my favorite places to play is actually to like go to the farmer's market and see what's there and be like, what can I create with all of this, and just like see what foods pop and, pull from there and go for it. So that's a fun world to play in. I love playing with food. But when it comes to creation with business and like, in our lives, um, we've got to like, I have found it to be very, very liberating to get out of the conversation of how in my own world. It's so tempting. It's so tempting when we want to have something different and we'd like to choose something different to look first at how am I going to do this? How is this going to get created? How? Where's the money going to come from? Where are the people going to come from to support this? Like, how am I going to find the people? How am I going to find the clients? Maybe you're starting a new business. How am I going to find a person to have a different kind of a relationship with? Where am I going to meet people? All these things. How am I going to survive as a parent if I want to have another child or something like that? So there's all these hows that we just go to automatically, kind of by default. And I would actually say, take how out of your vocabulary. Try it for a day, try it for a week, try it for a month. See what it's like to take the consideration of how out of your vocabulary, out of your own world. Like just take it out of your world and be in more in like bring in some new questions and some different questions. What would it take for this to show up? What choices are available to me that I didn't realize are available? What new energies can I invite into my life? What can I add to my life to create it as greater right away? These are all questions that yield all kinds of energetic awareness and gifts, really gifts of possibility and contribution from the universe. And as we move in this way with these energies, it's like so many incredible things show up. When we are in the non-question of how, because it's not really a question, we're looking for an answer when we ask how. We're not looking for possibility. When we're in that universe, the universe of how, we we're not really looking from a expansive point of view. We're looking from a very narrow, contracted point of view. And when we do that, it's you can only see, what you already know, and that you're going to keep getting the same thing again and again and again. So even choosing things that are beyond the scope of your how is a great way to start to flex your muscles and exercise your muscles of the energetics of creation and going beyond the how. So, for instance, say you were going to start a new business and you have an idea, and it might be that, for most people, like as soon as you get an idea, the very next thing is how. How do I institute this? How do I bring it to life, right? What if you did not let yourself go to the how? What if instead you were like, I have this idea. I would love to create this new business. What would it take? Even that seems like too simple a question, but if you perceive the energy of it, it's so different than how do I do this? It's like looking for an answer, looking for a contraction rather than what would it take for this to come to fruition easier than I can imagine, with more ease and speed and elegance than I can imagine. Now, you have to be willing to function in a very different way for that to occur. If you're somebody who's very like linear and black and white and sciency, you probably won't even be listening to this podcast, but maybe you are. Maybe you're looking for a different way of functioning. Um, I would invite you to let go of your mind to the best of your ability. And that's just, again, how? Well, there is no how. It's a choice. This is the power of choice. Going, okay, my mind has gotten me this far. Decision, judgment, conclusion, computation, it's gotten me this far. Okay, I would like to have something completely different now. So I'm going to have to function in a different way. I don't know how to do that. Now, that right there is a very vulnerable space. I don't know how to do that. Most of us are not willing to be that vulnerable with ourselves. And so we go to the how so that we have like guardrails to hold on to with creation. As long as you have guardrails and as long as you need guardrails to hold on to with creation, so that you have something kind of outside of you showing you how to navigate things, you're 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 going to be really limiting what it is that you can create. It's when we leap into new universes, new choices, new possibilities, new energies, things that we've never perceived before, things that we've never had before. When we take a leap into that, that's when things start to really show up in a very different way. And it's like going beyond your comfort zone, going beyond the need for guardrails, and really in the question of, okay, I would like to have something very different here. Now, in my own life, like I can share some of what's been going on for me. I've been asking for something really different. I mean, I always am, and somehow lately it's also been very like I've turned it up quite a bit. And it's like, okay, really asking for something different in a lot of ways, not because anything's wrong with how things are now. Uh, just, it's fun for me to create greater and it's fun for me to create more. And there's areas of my life that I'm like, there's great things occurring, and I know there's so much more available. I would like to have that, and it's time. It's been a little too slow in the making for me, which is a very common thing for the seekers of the world, the humanoids of the world who are like bigger, better, faster yesterday. And so for me, I know that I need to expand my questions, my choices into things that I haven't chosen before. And that can even look like putting on different clothes than I normally would, maybe doing my hair in a different way. Um, it doesn't even have to be like, it could be a business thing that you're asking for, and you could change your outfit, wear a different color than you normally would wear or something like that. And that could change so many things. It's kind of amazing how the universe works and how the universe shows up to meet us and contribute to us based on what we're being, what we're willing to be, what we're asking for, and what we're choosing. Our choice is that is how we open doors to new possibilities all over the place. And so choices that seem very frivolous, like your clothes or how you present yourself, whatever, that can create such a different energy in your life. I mean, if you show up and you're, dressed like a bum, that's one energy. You show up and you're dressed very elegantly, that's a different energy. You show up and you're dressed very colorfully, that's a different energy. You're all in white, that's a different energy. So it's just fun to play with these things. And there's choices all day long that allow us to get out of our comfort zone. What we eat, what we wear, how we present ourselves, the things that come out of our mouths, the things that we don't say. Like sometimes being silent is such an amazing choice if you're not somebody who tends to have a lot of silence in your world. um, Maybe calling somebody that you haven't spoken to in a long time, talking to somebody on a plane. If you never talk to people on planes, that's me. I never talk to people on planes, and I'm always like, okay, I gotta talk to people, because it just exposes you to new energies, new awareness. It's amazing how much awareness we can gain from people around us if we're willing to engage with them. It's such a gift. And, I am definitely somebody who doesn't always do that. I kind of get into my little world and I'm like, I don't feel like talking to anybody right now. But that is a particular choice that will create a particular energy, particular awareness in my world. And if I'm asking for something different, I've got to be looking at stepping outside of my comfort zone. So if there was any sort of how to creation, it's really like choose different things every day, step outside of your comfort zone, and then keep asking new questions and different questions based on what's showing up. So, like say I talk to somebody on a plane and all of a sudden I have this. I mean, here's an example of this. My partner, Brian, had a conversation with somebody on a plane, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, that told him about this town in Mexico that we never knew about. We love Mexico. We travel there a lot. But he just happened to spark up a conversation with somebody on a plane. They told him about this town in Mexico, and we ended up going there and buying a house there. And we had been asking for a house in Mexico. We had been, like someday we'll do that, and we weren't even like actively looking. But just so happened that Brian was just chatting it up with somebody with no agenda whatsoever. And all of a sudden, this person is like, hey, La Manzanilla, and then we were like, hey, that's interesting. Let's check that place out, follow the energy. It's light. Let's go to La Manzanilla. We went to La Manzanilla. We started looking at houses, we found our house and we bought it a few months later. So it was like, from one moment, like in February of that year, we had no idea that this town even existed. And fast forward in April of that year, we were buying a house, and in June of that year, the house was ours. So it's so amazing the new possibilities and the new, energies and the new choices and the new awareness that can come when we aren't looking at how. We, at that point, had been like, we'd like to have a house in Mexico. That'd be fun. It wasn't, we're doing it now. We need to do it. We want to do it. We have to do it. How are we going to do it? It was just, yeah, someday that'd be cool, And sometimes the things that have the least amount of significance in our lives show up the fastest and with the greatest elegance. That is a huge one. And so I'm a little bit all over the place, but that's me. um, and so if you're asking for something different in your business, like what if you really took the significance off of it? What if you actually really chose, I'm not this thing, like whatever this is that I'm asking for, maybe this new business that I'm going to start, I'm not going to make this significant. I'm not going to make this mean anything about me. I'm not going to need anything from this business. I'm not going to lean on it to give me the money that I think I, need to have. It's like, I'm going to choose, okay, there's this energy here. I'm going to start playing with it. I'm going to start playing with it like it was a new, really fun toy. And every day I'm just going to be like, hi, what's up? Business, energy of the business, and there's a lot of energies and entities that contribute to us, like, beyond, like, kind of tapping into the spirit world and the world, more around the energies of things and not so much about people and thinking, but going to the energy of the energy of the business, the energy of the different creations in the business, because each creation even has its own energy. We start to perceive those energies, interact with them. And here's the thing is you'll probably think you're a little crazy, which is totally appropriate, you know. I mean, it's like that's part of it, you know, is being like, yeah, I talk to the energies of my business, I talk to the energies of my creations, like I'm one of those weirdos, you know. But the what it yields when we really are willing to go there and trust ourselves as these energetic creatures that have awareness, that have these conversations with inanimate things, that look to the future, that are willing to make choices based on the energy of things and not the definition of things. It's like what can show up is so phenomenal. And at that point, when you're really fluid with asking a lot of questions, making new choices, a deep level of listening to the energies of creation, you how will sort of become, it will kind of fall away as something that you think you need, even. It stops being that alluring because I mean, there's always, you know, there can always be that, like, I do notice for myself, there's still sometimes are these kind of like, how, you know? But I know that that's not a question that is even that meaningful to me. It's not that exciting or relevant to me. So when if my mind goes there, it's like, okay, well, that's just my mind. I don't need to go there. Instead, I'd like to just be present with, you know, the exploration of, you know, what is, and the energies of that. I know that if I am in question and I'm making new choices, I'm bringing all kinds of new energies into my world every day with new questions, new choices, new ways of being, new ways of interacting, new ways of functioning, being willing to choose things that are uncomfortable to me, you know, choose things that I don't think I can accomplish or, you know, pay for or achieve, or maybe I don't think I have the capacity to do, you know, all these things. It's like that's how I bypass my own limitations, is by choosing and then being like, all right, universe, here I am, I'm choosing. When we choose something different, we literally show the universe that we are down to play the game of the energetics of creation. Like we show the universe by our choices that we mean what it is that we're asking for. This is where, as we say, the rubber meets the road. If you're asking for something, if you're like, I have a new business idea, I'd love to do it, and then that's it. You know, you don't start choosing in the direction of that, interacting with those energies, making new choices, different choices, you know, being like playing with this, you know, movement of creation. Really, it's just like the play of the movement of creation. That new business will never come to fruition. Like if Brian, my partner, had heard this person talking about La Manzanilla and been like, oh yeah, whatever, like that was that, you know, and that's not wrong either. Like we wouldn't have our house in Mexico, so what, you know, it doesn't really matter. um we would have done something different, you know. But there's so much beauty that's come from this place and we enjoy it so much, and a lot of people enjoy it so much because we rent it out and da da da. So it's like you can create, you have these choices and these creations that you can move toward that really open up futures, not just for you, you know. And if you're looking at creating a new business or something different in your business or just even expanding it, it's like, what does that create as a future for the world? Sometimes we actually need a sense of that in order to really go for it. You know, it's kind of funny. Sometimes we don't really like doing something for ourselves isn't quite big enough, you know, but if we do it for the world, it's big enough. And that's not wrong. That's just a lot of seekers, humanoids, you know, people that are different, that function from a different place. Um, it's, you know, we need things to be big enough for us, and that's appropriate. So sometimes we need to just, you know, include in the consideration like how our choices are going to affect the world, the future of the world and other people. And the cool thing is when you include all of that in your choices and how you're creating, it's like, and you're like, yes, I'm going for this. I'm moving in the direction. I'm taking steps toward whatever this thing is that I'm creating and asking for. I'm allowing the evolution of it. I'm allowing it to take turns and bends and U-turns and, all those things, and just following it with my awareness, my questions, my choices. It's like you go on this beautiful meandering path of creation and consciousness where there's this beautiful evolution that you and the universe are co-creating. To me, that's the beauty of the creation of business. That's how creation unfolds in some of the most dynamic and magical ways. And there is no need from that space. There's no need for how. How becomes a distraction and also becomes something that we're like, I don't need it. I don't need to know how. The universe will show up and meet me as I choose. I will have so many new awarenesses, energies, choices, possibilities, things I've never considered. I can take a left turn, I can take a U-turn, I can go diagonally, I can keep going straight, The universe will show up to meet you as you choose, and follow that light and heavy, or follow the lightness, not the heaviness. And if you didn't hear last week's episode, you can listen to that one. So what if how just isn't necessary? And again, it's a very different way of functioning. You have to kind of let go of being a control freak if that's your thing, which I know it is for a lot of people. And it's like you go, I'm choosing this, boom. If you truly choose something, you that's how you put the horse before the cart. If you look for the how, if you look, I need to have the money before I choose it, I need to know how, I need to have the roadmap, that's putting the cart before the horse. Put the horse before the cart. The horse pulling the cart is your choice. And it's a completely different universe of creation, and it's something that I feel like I learn more about all the time. And I have lots of moments where I'm like, wow, I have such a different sense of choice now and what that is, and wow, I didn't really realize before I didn't really have a sense of choice, and then there's more and greater and more and greater. And it's such a cool, it's like, wow, it just really, we can, it's how we kind of let ourselves off the hook for any sort of necessity with creation. And we get to really enjoy that meandering path of consciousness, the elegance of creation, and the beauty of going beyond the how. So I hope this was a contribution to you. If you would like more, there's so much more all the time. I mean, there's so many podcasts on this one and the entrepreneurial biome, which was last season. I'm also going to be doing the generative business pods starting August 28th. That's a 6-month deep dive into this space with creation for you and knowing what you know. And I've seen people choose that program having no idea how they're going to pay for it, and it just starts contributing to them as soon as they choose it. Vroom, and really is like, it is a very generative space. And I also have a Business Done Different class coming up starting in October. That's a really amazing class for really kind of a master class in creation with the tools of access consciousness. So 2 really beautiful explorations. And yeah, I hope this was a gift and a contribution. And thank you so much for you. I will see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me for the Creation of Living podcast. If this conversation was inspiring to you, share the love. To work privately with me or for info on my upcoming classes and retreats, go to heathernichols.com. Have a beautiful day, and remember that the world thrives when you do.